play it in this key, that kind of implies the dominant, and it's going to get me back, and I can somehow land on the D, which is the fifth of G minor, on the downbeat, and I've resolved.
Chris Potter is talking about how he thinks jazz lines slowly. Of course he's not thinking this when he's playing, but this is a thought process. And this is Charlie Parker using voice leading and nailing the changes. Hank Mobley on his finest playing these beautiful simple lines. So we have these three things. Hank Mobley playing beautiful simple lines. Charlie Parker's forever clear movements towards the target note using beautiful voice leading. And the fact that Chris Potter is actually mentioning that you need to know what's going on when you play. And those three aspects of jazz are very important to have in your playing when you are playing jazz music. So check this video out if you want to define the jazz progression you're playing over with very simple lines. And if you're wondering how to always play musical lines like Charlie Parker, and if you sometimes feel lost in the amount of information you need to know, which you actually do not need to know. For a much better understanding of this, I really recommend you to download the Deep Dive Lesson Manual on Patreon. You can take all the examples out, look at them next to you and play them while I'm talking about them. Stop and pause the video, deep dive into the material. The PDF download link is right below in the description. We start by getting into some very simple ways of outlining the chords. Mobley is playing from the third to the root up. And why not start with the blues? Because blues is the basics of all jazz. So let's put it into the first 4 bars of a blues form. By the way, here's another good reason to download the Deep Dive Lesson Manual on Patreon, because there I have written out the full form with these exercises in. For this pattern to happen both in your ears and your fingers and your head, do what Chris Potter was talking about. Learn the chords. And think the pattern in the chords. Because the chords are the backbone of the progression we play. They're the backbone of the tunes we are playing. So when you're playing this pattern, think about what's the third and what's the root of the chords. Just have them in mind as a little ping inside your head. When you have this, you are able to pull out this pattern very easily because it's already in there. The first pattern we played was a simple third to the root going up. But all patterns have double functions. Just invert the pattern and you have twice the amount of material to play. Play it down. Another thing we need to realize is that rhythm is the most important thing. This really spices up your lines. So any rhythmic variation makes a huge difference. Why am I only playing the roots? Because when you're only focusing on one thing at a time, it makes it much easier to apply one other thing. What I recommend you to do is repeat this process. Play the roots through the forms and just add simple rhythm. Really dig the groove. So let's get into another really easy pattern to outline the chords. Add the 7th to the root. So when you're playing down from the root to the 7th, try do this in the whole blues form, because exactly this pattern sounds very bluesy. These easy patterns are amazing to get into our ears, because they automatically flow in there and stay there, because you remember the sound. When you have the sound of these patterns in your ears, the patterns kind of pop up automatically in your playing. We need to combine all these materials, because when you combine the materials, magic starts to happen. You get much more solid jazz phrases. Try combining these patterns in all the ways you can and play through the form of the blues many, many times. What Charlie Parker said. Charlie Parker said voice leading, play beautiful melodies. Voice leading leads to the most beautiful melody. Let's borrow some of Charlie Parker's stuff. As a general rule, the half step is a great leading tone because it has this tension towards the next tone. I'm starting at this line by by playing an F which leads into the E on the C7. The F to the E has a half step, of course. So in this way, this is great voice leading. And now I really apply it into the blues line. I'm using the same patterns as before, but I'm using voice leading too. So I'm connecting the lines from the F to the E, you see, between the first two bars. Between bar 2 and 3, from the C7 to the G7, I'm using the B flat to the B, another half step. When you're comparing the phrase with the voice leading to the earlier line with the huge jumps, you definitely hear a difference. I'm not saying one is wrong and one is right. I'm saying the voice leading makes a much smoother line. We need lots and lots of these great and simple line luggage. So I'm talking about lines we can easily play and easily reproduce, so easily remember in our ears. For this we turn back to the amazing Hank Mobley. And the first line Hank Mobley played on Remember is a great example. He's playing the third to the ninth to the root, and then he's going down that arpeggio. The exact point of this line is don't overcomplicate it. We want to keep it simple. Let's pick out one thing, and that's the ninth of this line. Add the ninth to our blues line. I'm playing from the ninth to the root, and this makes a beautiful line. Let's dig into the ninth a bit more, because a lot of things happens when we add the ninth. Now I add the ninth between the root and the third, giving me a small scale line. And when you have a small part of a scale, the line suddenly becomes more melodic and not so jumpy. Adding the 9 opens up for more scales. If you add the 7th to this small scale line, you have 4 notes in a row in the scale, from the 3rd down to the 7th. And this little 4-note phrase sounds amazing for what it is. In the Deep Dive lesson manual, I have of course added tons of ways you can play all these examples. They are all added into a full blues form, giving you these beautiful blues etudes that you can play and learn from. The Deep Dive lesson manual download link is right below in the description. Grab it. Now add it all together. So what I did was adding it all into the Deep Dive lesson manual on Patreon. You can train it by just taking the Deep Dive lesson manual and play through it. Then you got all these basic materials into your playing. You have the basics and then you have the mixed material. And it could sound like this. The lesson manual takes you through all the described patterns in full blues forms. Then it advances into mixing all these patterns, that you can get them thoroughly into your fingers and your ears, really learn to play them. With this material you can develop your own blues solos just by playing simple material, and they sound great. Grab the Deep Dive lesson manual on Patreon. The download link is right below in the description. I would recommend you to watch the next video. It's a must. Taking you through basic chords and basic scales, how to connect these. And this is exactly the next step from here. Play music, have fun.